Hi everybody, I'm Paul Gottsegen here with Prashant Kelker, talking about the trends for the next year, 2024. And Prashant, guess what? This is the third year we're doing this. Time flies. We made this a tradition. It's fantastic. And you know, every other year, it's a little more open-ended. There's so many trends flying around. Guess what? There's a big elephant in the room. Do you know what it is? AI. Yes, AI, of course it is. So we'll delve into artificial intelligence. And let me just ask you, it was a little over a year ago that ChatGPT came out and changed the world and had a huge impact, and you've had so much time to study this and work with your team. Before we get into next year, give me your perspective on the impact Gen AI has had. AI has been around for decades. So what was it about generative AI a year ago that changed the world thus far?
I think there are two things which happened to us in November of 2022. The first thing was AI became less of a topic which is done by geeks in a data room, in a data center, in a data lab, to mass imagination. I think that's what's happened. The second thing is, because of the mass imagination, people have learned that AI cannot just predict and judge. So those are the two things AI was used for. November changed that. AI became something with which you could generate things. Now you could generate recipes, and with that, it entered mass imagination.
Okay, and there's a concept called applied generative AI. And you and your team wrote a great white paper on that topic. Talk about what's so important about that word applied in front of generative AI. What does that mean to you, and what's important for that for our clients?
And it's a great point, Paul. We've chosen that word with care. I think the world relies on ISG to separate reality from hype. The world relies on us to separate from talk from where things are being spent on. So for us, we were more interested in who's saying something and who's actually doing something about it. So if you look at generative AI, the number of things it could do are enormous. It could change your customer experience. It could change your product. It could change your business. But where were things actually happening? We found that things were happening wherever there was knowledge management. So let's take an example. Let's take an underwriter. An underwriter today has to study hundreds and hundreds of pages on underwriting guidelines. What has happened now is this same underwriter is augmented by an application which he or she can talk to, chat with, and the system spits out recommendations. Notice I said recommendations, not judgments. The underwriter is still in the loop, the human is still in the loop, the underwriter just got augmented. The customer experience has not changed. So I think that's what we are seeing. We're seeing not any area with knowledge management being the first area where Gen AI seems to be taking place. It could happen in customer experience too. It's just we're seeing our clients are being a little cautious because they're not able to predict yet what a mistake there can do to brand value. So that's where we differentiate between applied and where the possibilities.
Well, let me pick up on that. As we move into 2024, if I'm a Fortune 500 company or any company and want to apply generative AI to drive growth or competitive advantage, how do I navigate through? Because I'm a little scared as well. Maybe there are some ethical or legal issues I've got to watch out for, but I can't sit still. So how does a Fortune 500 or any company navigate through the key choices that they want to move into 2024 and be a leader in applying Gen AI?
Yeah, and I think that's going to define the 2024 for all of us.
Big question.
So I think the first thing I would say is don't stop experimentation. Don't stop it, because it's not about Gen AI, it's about how a business process or your business or a certain aspect of your operations changes because of AI. That's going to come out from grassroots. Don't stop that experimentation. However, put some guardrails to this experimentation, because experiments may or may not work. When they work, you've nailed something. How do you take something that you've nailed to scaling? That's where guardrails come in. Let's take an example of what can go wrong. We've seen our clients worry about what happens if they buy a model. So everybody talks about LLMs. What happens if you buy a model and you find out later that that model has been trained on copyrighted data.
Right.
So who's liable now? Is it the person who used it, or the person who gave it, right? So since there are some gray areas right now, this is where you need guardrails. So don't allow experimentation, put the guardrails. Guardrails are where ISG comes in.
Take that one step further into use cases with guardrails. What kind of use cases are you seeing that are pre-scale but are safe to try and experiment with?
So if I take it maybe 3 clicks higher, it's good to say, I have an idea and I think AI can help me on this idea. What we're finding is it's only applicable and useful if you have training data for it. So rather than say, hey, this is my business idea, start also with, where do I have enough data? Because there's no AI without IA.
Okay.
There's no AI without information architecture, and there's no information architecture without data.
Talk about the skill sets of the people who are going to be able to manage through this. I imagine they must be data experts if they're going to start with data.
Okay, so I know this is going to sound a little bit like doom and gloom, but if you look at the entire tech industry and you look at the entire talent in the tech industry and say how much of this talent can handle data, it's anywhere between 9 to 11%. If you look inside that 9 to 11% and say how many of them can handle AI models, so like LLM ops, ML ops, this is 1%. How many can actually train and build those models is anywhere between 0.1 and 0.3%. I know this is doom and gloom, but this is where we are as an industry at the moment. So if you don't have that talent, guess what? Nobody does. So I think we need to step back and start relying on a buy versus build. There's going to be a lot of spend in these areas. A lot of training and data is what drives spends in AI. It's not the model itself, it's the amount of training effort required. A lot of this training effort, unfortunately, at the moment has to be PE funded or big tech funded. That's what we're going to see for the next 3 quarters. But in all of this, depending on what data you have and how much proprietary data you have, spend much more time in how can that data be used. The data can be used for 3 purposes, either to optimize a process, or create new revenue, or expand your top line. Once you know what these are, then come to a technical architecture which gives you a buy versus build. In there is your solution.
We'll talk about where sourcing comes into play. We're known for sourcing. We spend a lot of time helping our clients source technology. And how do you inject generative AI into basic sourcing principles?
We'll have to look at this world in 2 ways. Sourcing for AI, world 1. World 2, how does what we've been doing over the last 20 years change through AI? So if I look at the first world, sourcing for AI, I know it's all about use cases at the moment. I mean, we're seeing this across the plane. So in these use cases, you'll get from system integrators, you'll also have this from hyperscalers who want to do this for you. This is experimentation. Set the guardrails. Remember that some of these experiments are going to need to scale. Go ahead of that and set the stage for cognitive infrastructure. You need to have the landing zone on where this lands. And the laws of physics are going to dictate where it lands. Egress costs. Do you need high speeds or low speeds? Do you need low latency or high latency? It's not going to be all in the cloud. You're going to see edge data centers. You're going to have AI-ready laptops, AI-ready clients. That's where the investments are going. So as we have these experiments running, set the stage for how do you buy experiments. Is it use case by use case? Is it pod by pod? But also how do you scale? What is the architecture runway? What's the cognitive infrastructure needed for it? I think this is the world you'll see for the next 3 to 4 quarters. Now comes the but. But one day you're going to start buying models. Today we're going to buy labor and software and hardware for AI. Tomorrow we're going to buy data and models. So get prepared for that too, because that's a rabbit hole on itself. Like I just spoke about proprietary data and copyrighted data. So that's world 1. I think we're at the start of world 1.
Sourcing for AI.
Sourcing for AI. Now, the elephant in the room is what happens to our sourcing industry through AI.
Right.
Now, our initial studies are showing anywhere between a 30 to 58% productivity. 30 to 58% productivity in IT operations.
Reduce costs?
Reduce cost, reduce labor. I don't know how much of this gets passed on to clients, how much of this sits in the profit margins of the system integrators. Somewhere in there is the answer. So over the next 3 quarters, especially in such a depressed market as what we're seeing now, I'm expecting actually costs to reduce in IT operations tremendously. We are following this. We also know our role in this, so we are being very careful before we announce anything. We are 4 months into the study. I'm not yet ready to announce it.
Come on.
Not yet ready to announce it. I'll give you a range. It's 30 to 58%.
Okay.
But a statement from ISG has such repercussions,
Right.
that we want to be very careful. So
Well,
wait till
Giving
January.
us the directional idea with that huge productivity savings. There's a concept you use called control plane. I'll give you an opportunity to explain that in the context of what is the trend in 2024 that requires this thing called a control plane that I need you to explain a little bit.
Let's take an analogy which is not AI. Cloud. So if you look at cloud, cloud started with the need for orchestration. People built control planes for orchestrating of cloud. Then the costs started going through the roof. Invoices started going through the roof. The entire discipline of cloud FinOps came in. So finance came into the control plane. How can cloud finance itself, or how can chargeback or showback happen inside an enterprise? The exact same thing is going to happen in AI for very different purposes. The first thing is now AI is about data. It's about where is data in use in an enterprise, where is data in rest, or where is data in motion in an enterprise. It's no longer just the data center. It could be the bank branch. It could be the McDonald's franchisee. The perimeter of cyber security has just expanded.
So the control plane is like, an orchestration layer for AI? Is that?
An orchestration layer of which security first becomes the first.
Okay.
The second is, of course, how to self-finance this.
Okay.
And the third is the moral compass of the enterprise, because that's where you're handling ethics, bias. Also, the new threats are anti-poisoning. You don't want your models to be poisoned with bad data. So there are new threats we're going to be seeing.
Poisoning sounds bad.
Right? So think of it as secure AI, responsible AI, self-financing AI. That's your control plane.
I feel like we could talk about AI for quite a while, but maybe we should see what else is going to be happening in 2024. I know your team is looking at other trends. Maybe something, I know biotech and that whole area has been one that your team's been focused on. What's the key trend in that area?
I think what has happened thanks to COVID is the awareness on biotech, medtech. If you look at the market at the moment, 97% of healthcare is on curing diseases. It's actually sick care, it's not healthcare.
Right.
Because 3% was on pre-diagnostics. This equation is going to change. But for this equation to change, you need data. We see bioscience and data science starting to come together. And wherever there is the cusp of bioscience and data science is going to be a new market. We start seeing this on the West Coast and here in the Northeast right now. So we should start tracking biotech in terms of not just devices, but also data and AI monetizations. Something over the next 2 to 3 years, I think the US will lead the way in that.
Are there any other key trends that we should hit on today?
I mean, we spent the last 15 minutes talking about the poetry of AI. We've not spoken about the plumbing of AI.
Okay.
The plumbing of AI is going to
Poetry sounds like more fun, but go ahead.
Exactly, and the money is in the plumbing, like the gold rush showed us. The money is in the shovels and pickaxes.
Right.
So, what is the shovels and pickaxes of AI? It's the infrastructure on which this lands. I think AI is going to give an impetus to high performance computing and quantum, for cognitive infrastructure, for edge data centers, for AI-ready clients. I think we are entering a world of what I call compute diversity. It is not just about the data center and cloud. It's about the enterprise edge being part of it. So across storage, compute, network, old thinking for infrastructure, now comes storage, compute, network, edge, and data. That's going to give us a new market. Today we call it high performance computing. It's much more than high performance computing. Somewhere at the horizon of all of this is quantum. This is something we have to keep on our map for the next 2 years. Our guess is it's going to be very information intensive clients like energy trading or wealth management who are first adopters in this market.
Prashant, thank you so much. There's so much happening, dominated by AI, but other key elements as well, quantum computing and whatnot. So it's been fantastic to hear your thoughts as everybody's getting ready for the holidays and thinking about being prepared for 2024. Thank you. Thanks for joining.